We're back with another episode of Boots, Balls and Bras, powered by Pepsi Max, proud partners of the Women's Euros. Myself, Carter Williamson, Anita, Asante, alongside me, Neats. This is the morning after the 6-1 victory, Lionesses against Wales. Just give me your overview of the game.
Yeah, I guess, obviously England were favourites going into that game. They were expected to try and deliver, I think, another good performance off the back of the Netherlands win. They started off quite brightly. I thought that Wales held their own, the first sort of 12 minutes or so. And then, they were fortunate to get that penalty, but it was a clear penalty. And from then on, they were able to sort of comfortably dominate the game. I think the Welsh team, again, tried and gave a valiant effort to try and compete. But I don't think England really reached the levels that they did in the previous Netherlands game, which is, I think, from our perspective, a little bit disappointing because we want to see them go up a notch or at least replicate the Netherlands performance. But from a Welsh perspective, I think scoring a goal, really another massive achievement for them. And it was brilliant to see the Welsh fans, celebrate that with their players. But I think the toll of having 2 games with heavy defeats really showed in that Welsh team, in terms of fatigue and like the mental fatigue as well as the physical one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, we had a pre-match prediction going into that, and I did say England would win 5-0. I didn't think Wales would score. Look, I hold my hands up. They got the goal that I didn't expect or think that they were capable of. But you spoke there about the fitness, and I felt that because of lack of international tournament experience from Wales, as you mentioned there, 2 heavy defeats to 2 top nations in the Netherlands and France. Yeah. I felt then coming into the England game, fitness-wise, physically, know-how, tournament experience that England have, they would roll Wales over, just being the third game. Absolutely, I would have felt maybe the opening game, maybe it wouldn't have been that way, but I did feel the physical side of it, the element of it, England would have dominated. And look, they absolutely dominated the game. There's no denying that. I felt like they did show the levels between England and Wales and where they're at right now.
Yeah, the gap was there, wasn't it?
But I still, as you mentioned there, you look at that Netherlands game and look, we were all super excited after that game. We were pleased that they played the England way in terms of the intensity they played with. And I felt that they would have gone into the Wales game with that same attitude and approach. I felt a little bit at times they kind of lowered their level in terms of speed of play. To kind of manage the game. Maybe it looked like they were trying to manage it, maybe manage their legs. And that, I thought, that disappointed me a little bit because by playing that way, they did allow Wales opportunities. Look, they had 6 shots at goal, 2 on target, and they got 1 from that. Now against better opposition, which I would imagine England wouldn't allow for that to happen, but it's disappointing that they did in this game. And that was just one frustration out of it. I mean, look, we can dissect the Wales goal, but I was so disappointed in the manner we conceded that goal. And I know by that time there was, 4 or 5 changes that England had made, but still, we look in transition, very exposed. We played very expansive, and I don't know what you thought about the goal, but I just thought, for Jess Fisherlock to be in acres of space, in the game, in that moment, I thought, what are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah. You're gifting Wales an opportunity. A player like Jess Fisherlock with that quality, who likes to drive at defences, give her that much space, she will find something. And if it wasn't the pass for Hannah Kane, by the way, a great finish, she would have probably took the shot on herself. But that can't be happening, surely, if we are like now coming up against Sweden, which we'll touch on in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, from our perspective, we want to dissect the games and try to understand how England can be at their very best in all moments. And of course, against very good opposition, you expect them to give up opportunities potentially on goal. But in this instance, the fact that they dominated for the most part, the Welsh team, you don't expect them to give up the kind of opportunities that they did in that game and to open themselves up. And that still shows a bit of a vulnerability from transition, which is something I think they've been conscious of since the last World Cup. Yeah. How can they stop transition better? And I think we're looking ahead to Sweden and the threats of what Sweden might pose. That is a bit of a concern that, in those moments, we got good balance now, I think, in terms of the personnel in the right positions and in the team. But do we have the right balance in those moments of transition and recognizing those triggers where we can't just maybe vacate, space or positions to support underneath the ball
Yeah.
when we've not got secure possession. So I agree with you from that perspective. I think those are definitely the areas that we need to keep improving, just to make sure that we aren't giving up those types of opportunities on goal.
Yeah, because for me, if your opposition looking at that, on top of opposition, you know, we'll be analysing, we'll be able to execute, we'll be able to exploit. And if England is still showing that they are vulnerable in those areas, those transitions, because of our start position in our build phase, there will be opposition that will be thinking there's an opportunity to exploit. Put them into that false sense of security, let them feel like they can play into those areas, and then we'll exploit them. So that was just a worry, because Wales actually did have 4 shots on goal in the first half. So, you know, and that was with our starting 11. So we did still give up opportunities.
And just to put some context as well for Wales in their sort of journey, like, you know, I think it was the 2005 home Euros. They couldn't participate in that because they weren't categorised as a Group A team. There's only 12 teams in 2000, expanded to 12 teams in 2009. And then they were going for that qualification. And right before their qualification in 2003, the FAW pulled all their funding.
Yeah, it's crazy,
right? So, like, just to put into context of like where they are in their journey as a national team that's trying to now compete on the European stage, you know, that shows just how far they've come.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like, this learning curve for them will be the motivator that those players go, we want to be back here again, right? And I think, you know, that's credit to them and credit to the Red Ball and all the supporters that they had out there too.
Incredible support. And you're right. And look, you've put it you know, very well into context in terms of where they're at. And you know, we probably, you know, for the Welsh fans or fans out there, probably think us as English people, we speak quite arrogantly about England and Lionesses and the levels between ourselves and Wales. But the Welsh team pretty much reminds me, as you mentioned there, our 2005 when we qualified because we were the home nations. I mean, we were nowhere near the levels that we needed to be. Again, in 2009, when we got to the final against Germany, you know, they wiped the floor with us 6-2, but we got there. And I do believe now they've had a taste for it, it does remotivate you and it gives you that drive to want to be there again and taste it again. And I'm sure they will go on to be in, you know, future tournaments. So, yeah, it's probably just the start for them.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot to look forward to. But let's talk about England, because 6 different goal scorers. I don't know if you saw, but I actually noticed that England would actually, maybe they found a vulnerability in Wales, because in that opening 45, we actually put a lot of crosses in, deep crosses from wide areas. Do you think this is something that Sarina identified? Because in the opening 2 games, there wasn't as many crosses put into the box from wide areas. And we got a lot of joy from that.
Yeah, I think she did. I think it was clear to see that even though Wales has set up in that kind of back 5 structure that sometimes collapse with their midfielders, they weren't getting pressure on the ball. Every time the ball went out wide to a Mead or a Lauren James, whoever was on the ball, they just could not get close enough. And they were allowing them the space and time to deliver, you know, or, you know, slip someone in for a delivery. And we really hurt them that way. And I think their in-box defending definitely is something that they will be, I'm sure, assessing and learning from and wanting to improve on. But if you're not going to stop the deliveries at source, you've got to be touch tight in the box. You've got to stop forwards running across you, you know, or getting a run on you and make it uncomfortable for them, jump with them, not allow them those easy headers or finishes. So, yeah, I think Sarina definitely identified that. And it's pleasing to see that England can execute a game plan where you know exactly what spaces you can exploit of the opposition and actually execute it with quality. Yeah. And I think they did that very well. And I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how we approach that Sweden game.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Sweden because that's an exciting game. We're probably one that I don't think any of us planned for. But yeah, we mentioned 6 different goal scorers, and you know, we had that 4-0 lead at half time, and it gave opportunity for Sarina to make these changes at half time. What did you make of the substitution opportunities for these players to come in and kind of get, you know, a run of minutes? Aggie Beaver-Jones comes off the bench and scores. We know from the start, Ella Toone, that kind of connection, telepathic connection.
Ella's on fire, give her flowers.
Scoring and then setting her mate up, and, you know, it was a well-taken goal by Russo. But what did you make of kind of that whole put us ahead, rotation, connections? What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, it's important, I think, when the team has momentum now. It feels like the team has momentum. So it was an opportunity to give those players minutes, get Jess Park in there, give her a feel, and those connections as well. Really nice to see Aggie Beaver-Jones get on the pitch, and she had an assist and a goal, you know, and to know that those players can come in and have immediate impact on the team is super important, because I think if you're going to reach a final, it really does take the whole squad, you know, and also making those changes in the right moments in the right games is a massive part of that. So we know we have the threats there. Niamh Charles came in at right back as well. You know, it's an opportunity, I guess, for her, Sarina, to have a look at that, you know, position as well, and see, you know, if she can utilize her there, because I think for any of the starting lineup to play all of the games all the way up to the final is a real tall order, isn't it? Physically, to be able to do that consistently for those 90 minutes plus potentially. So, no, I mean, you know, I know there'll be people screaming at us, but why didn't, you know, Michelle Agyemang get on the pitch? Again, there was potential to have her on there, but, you know, we are, you know, the riches we have up front is just ridiculous. And I think that's just part of it, unfortunately, that, you know, she didn't get the opportunity. But hopefully, you know, you never know.
You never know. I actually think in terms of profiling of players, and you think probably Aggie Beaver-Jones maybe against Wales probably better suited to come on. Agyemang, in my opinion, and we'll talk on Sweden, because I actually think she'll be really key in that game. And I don't know what you think, but actually I think she'll be a key player and will be potentially a game-changing player that will be needed in that game more so than Aggie Beaver-Jones. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, having seen how Sweden play.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you make, Fara, because we know that Sweden are quite a physical team. They got a lot of presence, they got a lot of height and stature, I would say, across the team. Yeah. They're really good, I think, defending in the box, and I think they're really good at being resilient and riding pressure. We saw that against Germany in those first sort of 20 minutes or so. And what Michelle offers, I think, is her sort of physical prowess in the box, but her finishing, obviously seeing her in 23s and the 19s, she really is a great sort of goal poacher and finisher in around the box.
Instinctive.
Yeah.
That's exactly,
That's the word for sure. And I think she has, and her back to goal play is pretty decent as well. So I think she could link others into the game, and she would provide something that they wouldn't necessarily know how to deal with. Yeah. Because they've not played up against her, you know, very much, and she's sort of the new emerging talent on the scene. So it's a bit of that kind of wild card element of something spontaneous to throw out there as a problem for Sweden. But I think it'd be exciting if she gets on the pitch.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
I'm excited for that. So we know now, obviously, the group stages are complete. That was England, obviously, won 6-1. France coming back from a goal down, then 2-1 down. And I was half thinking England are now going through in first position, and maybe that defeat to France in the opening game wasn't as bad as we thought. And it swung a few. And then Cascarino, I mean, I don't know if you saw her finish for the third goal, put them 3-2 up. Unbelievable finish. Probably, arguably at the minute, it's goal of the tournament. Yeah. Fantastic strike. But they won, and obviously they've gone through on their side. They're going to face Germany in the quarterfinal. And then we've got Switzerland facing Spain. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Now we've got England, Italy, that are going to face Sweden, and Norway, Italy. So we know on our side of the draw, we are going to be facing Sweden. And now we saw that final group game that maybe many didn't think was much on it between Sweden and Germany. But actually, for those nations, it was important to finish top of the group because they would have felt that the better side of the draw, if they finish top of the group, gives them a better chance of progressing to the final. And obviously, we've seen Sweden. They went a goal down against Germany, and you was thinking, how's this game going to, play out? And then we saw Sweden got themselves back into the game. That Blackstenius finish, by the way. I mean, the German defending, in my opinion, again, wasn't great. All over the place, didn't really lock on. It wasn't even good movement. She just kept herself on side and then was clinical. But they absolutely dominated after that goal. After they got themselves back into it, they got themselves back in. So what threats do they pose for England then going into that quarterfinal? Because you're a massive fan of Sweden. You have been for many years. You played out there. You kind of know their style of play inside out. What are they going to pose?
I just, I love that it was like old foes going against each other. Germany, Sweden, they must have played each other like 300,000 times. But I think what I like about Sweden is the sort of the unity within that squad and the harmony. And I think the mentality they have, that there is real self-belief there, because this is one of the smaller nations in the world, but they are consistent at qualifying for major tournaments and putting themselves in a position where they can be in the knockout phases. I think, you got to like applaud that,
Yeah.
you know, because that's not easy to do. And I think the other thing is, you know, when we used to talk to the Swedish players, like Magdalena Eriksson, for example, and they'd talk about going on national team camps, they'd be like, we can't wait.
Yeah.
Genuinely, they'd be like, can't wait to go to camp. Love it. Love being with my teammates. Love that. And I think you can see that translates in the team because even when they went a goal down, there was still that kind of belief and work ethic and hunger to dig deep and fight for each other and ride out some of the pressure that Germany were putting on them in those early moments. And the way they just came back with that kind of energy and aggression and directness caused Germany all sorts of problems. They were like all over the shop defensively. And, you know, arguably Sweden could have scored more goals.
Yeah, more. And Germany were aggressive in terms of their press. They were really aggressive in terms of the way that they played. You know, really trying to, you know, stop, you know, Sweden quite high up the pitch. And as you mentioned, they were direct. Now, you know, we're sitting here saying we need that same intensity and aggression in our press from England. Now, if we do that, they do have it in their locker to be more direct. Do you reckon that's something they're going to look at? England, maybe? The threat is that if they are over aggressive and they don't get the kind of press right, you know, that Sweden can play out of that.
Will exploit them. Yeah, I think because Sweden now, you know, they've been a nation in the past as well where they've been happy to sit in, you know, mid-blocks and just soak up pressure and wait for the opportunities to attack and counter-attack or play out for extra time penalties. You know, they've been that nation. But now I think they've got more weapons in the team. And I think they've got a varied balance of technical players and physical, direct, quick players. You know, and I think if you take the likes of Angedahl, who has really had such an amazing tournament so far, but really having impact in that midfield because she's so tidy on the ball, she's calm, she's got good vision and distribution. Bjorn is the same at centre back. You've got players, I think, that can manage high pressure scenarios now, stay on the ball, and deal with that pressure, you know, unlike maybe the past. But, you know, with Blackstenius' speed, you've always got the outlet. You've always got someone that can stretch the game and pose a threat and a problem for the defence. And Asllani, her football IQ, like she's so smart. She finds the right space. She gets the right timing. And that connection between the two of them, I think, works really well. So I think there's a few key areas and, you know, I've only mentioned a few because I'm really a big fan of Ritin Kanarid as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a few areas we're going to have to really nullify, but I think we're going to have to be super astute to like counter-pressing on turnover of possession. But in our build phase, we've got to get it tight. We've got to get it tight and we've got to get it right because we struggled with that against France. So like those kind of up, back and throughs, you know, could be vital for us if we're going to bypass their press.
Yeah, and I mean, for those that don't know too much about Sweden, they've actually got to the last 3 semi-finals. So obviously they got to the semi-final in the World Cup. Prior to that, they obviously lost to England 4-0 in the semi-final of the Euros. But then in 2019, the World Cup, they also got to a semi-final and won the bronze medal there, didn't they, out in France. So they know how to get to these finals, and they're probably feeling, with all of those experiences, and they probably are the most experienced team left in the tournament, that they're closer to getting to that final. And that will, you know, and I know England players are probably looking back to that 2022 semi-final, the way that, you know, because we suffered in that opening 20 minutes. I was quite worried for England in that opening 20 minutes in the semi-finals, and we really struggled and, you know, to get out and to play out through the Swedish press. But we got our goal, and once we got our goal, we kind of obviously saw what happened after that. We went on to batter Sweden in the end. But do you think if the England players are looking back at that performance and kind of using that and be like, well, we've done it then, do you reckon that's going to be their naivety or their downfall if they are to look at it and how maybe easily in the end it looked, but actually really if they look back at that opening 20 minutes probably wasn't if Sweden had took their chances?
Yeah, I think, I don't know how helpful it is to look to the past, you know, because we're in the present and you just have to look in what's in front of you now. And we've had a few changes ourselves in the squad. So there's players who wouldn't have experienced that. But I think what is useful is just having the psychology of knowing you've played a team like that before. So it doesn't feel like wholly a new entity as such, because a lot of the DNA is still quite consistent, perhaps, for Sweden. But I think it's important, for them to remember that this is a team that can hurt you if you allow them to. And football is so much about momentum and the swing of momentum. And if you allow a team like that to go ahead with a goal or get momentum early, they have the ability to suffocate you, as Germany, I think, experienced in that game. That once, they went a goal down and they came out after that, they just were flying. They were in a different zone. They were like, we're going to get a goal back and we're going to be relentless in it. So, but equally saying that, I think England, we equally have so many weapons in our team. And if we utilize the momentum we're building now, going into that game, and recognize that we just got to be sharp from the off, we can dictate the tempo, we can dictate the rhythm.
And we need to. It's a must.
Yeah.
It's a must from us.
Got to do it. I think then they will really find it challenging, to stop the kind of 1v1 ability of Lauren James or Russo connecting the play, or if it's Hemp getting in behind. Like, we got to do those things with intention, with energy, and commit to it, basically.
So let's talk about then some of those individual battles. Bearing in mind, Sweden have only conceded 1 goal in the opening 3 group games. England now have conceded 4. So defensively, they are very solid. They've always been that team. They've always been that nation that are comfortable without the ball. And now they're starting to build on that and be more comfortable in the ball and in his transition moments. So let's look at them. We mentioned Blackstenius, Leah Williamson having, teammate at Arsenal, knows her very well. Jess Carter Williams up against Blackstenius. How do we see kind of that?
I think it's a great battle. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. But I think the fact that Jess Carter has moved back into that centre back role alongside Williamson is going to be really key, because I think her physicality, how well she uses her body is going to be really vital when you're trying to stop a player like Blackstenius that wants to stretch the game and get beyond. I don't know, if she really enjoys that back to goal type of play. But the biggest thing for me is we've got to control depth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, got to control that. And we have to be able to, if the ball is getting fed into Blackstenius and she's going to lay one off, she's going to run.
Yeah.
Like that, she's not thinking about stopping it, but she's going. So we've got to be able to track the run, block the run, and make sure we're touch tight, I think, in those moments. Because Sweden have scored a lot of goals from crosses and headers in the box. So I think that's also a massive watch out for us.
Yeah, and set pieces as well. But they what I think you mentioned there, obviously, about Jess Carter's physicality in terms of her defending. But actually, I think in terms of her reading of the game from those central areas, is so underrated. The way she picks up positions to get herself in, to win the race, to get herself ahead of the opposition, to intercept. She kind of gets herself in those positions. She reads the game really well. Knows, we saw it yesterday, and I know it was against Wales, but she could step into play. She reads those kind of moments really well. And then obviously you talk about like the depth of the team and how we control that. I actually think she reads situations really well. So you're right. I actually think the fact that she's been moved more centrally really works for England. But let's talk about LJ. Lauren James up against Anderson. Anderson's, she's that physical player. I remember we were playing up against her in WSL when she was at Chelsea. She was horrible. Sweden are horrible because they are so aggressive in their contact. They like to make contact with opposition. They let you know that they're there. And, this is something that now LJ, and we know, when it comes to physicality, LJ has that in abundance, as well as the feet and trickery that she has. But how do you see that matching up? Because that is a good matchup. I think that's something that Anderson will really relish coming up against Lauren James.
Ask any of the fullbacks that have met Lauren James at the moment how fun it is to meet Lauren James. I don't think there's one fullback out there that's like, it's just a joyous thing to come up against, because she's just so, she is an absolute superstar, isn't she? And I think the way she can ghost past players, so elegantly, she makes the game look easy. And I think the danger is when you go up against a player like Lauren James is you think you have to be super front-footed, super aggressive. And, Jonna will relish that chance. And I think Sweden probably will be aggressive in their press. She'll want to stop space. I don't think she'll want to get into races with Lauren James. But when you go in that quick, this is how she reads the weight, your body weight and pressure so well. She'll just evade it. She'll skip past it. She'll do something tricky and you'll beat it. So it's getting the balance, I think, of that right. And making sure as well, I've seen across the game so far, a lot of fullbacks being isolated 1v1 with a player like that. And I think it's fair enough in the first 10 minutes, you're sussing each other out. It's a bit of psychology. You know, am I getting the better of her? Or is she getting the better of me? But if you're not getting any joy, honestly, call your mate.
Yeah.
You know, get your mate over, get your wide player in or whatever, your centre back, and you let them know, like, I need some extra help here. Get a bit tighter to me or whatever, or give me more information so I can really commit to pressing or staying off her, because she's going to cause all sorts of problems. The way she doesn't just stay wide, she drifts inside. She can combine and, you know, connect with others. She can shoot from distance.
To show her either way, and she's comfortable going either way.
She's comfortable either way. So I think what's going to be really interesting is to see Jonna, who does like to join in the attack as well for Sweden, and she's got a really, you know, a quality left foot delivery. If she's going to be more defensive minded in her thinking, or she's still going to commit to getting forward.
That would be interesting. How much input or how much info do you think Bjorn is giving to her teammate, or, you know, because she trains day in, day out with Lovin James. She knows the qualities of her. She knows how dangerous she is.
Yeah.
Do you reckon Bjorn will be like, look, even if you get tight, as you mentioned there, she can roll you. She can kind of sense where the press is coming from. Like, do you reckon there's that communication happening? Do you reckon? Or she said, look, you're gonna have to work it out yourself, because actually, if I say if I say this to you, I know that, you know, LJ can do the complete opposite to what I'm telling you. Do you think it's one of those that you kind of half have to suss it out yourself, or do you think you kind of lay, you know, on the information that the information that you got?
I think there's nothing wrong with sharing information. I think information is always helpful. You know, I think they probably will have conversations across that back line, and, you know, sort of tell each other about her strengths or what they think might be a weakness. But you don't want to overload with information, and I don't think you want to. She won't want to scare her either. You know, I don't think she'll want to be like, "Oh my God, this is what she's like in training."
She's already scared
every week.
Her.
You know, I think all you can do is really focus on your own actions and your own kind of game plan, and actually what tools are you going to utilize to try to make her job harder, to try and get LJ to receive the ball deeper, perhaps, or to force her backwards. Like, I think those are the only things you can really try to do without getting overawed by what she can do.
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned Bjorn there, and look, we all know the famous goal that Russo scored against Sweden in that 4-0 victory back in 2022, that little back heel that everybody is still talking about to this day. How do you see that match up then with Russo and Bjorn? Because for me, Russo's been unbelievable in this tournament, you know, in terms of movement without the ball, in terms of pressing, you know, without the ball, in terms of her unselfishness as a striker to bring her teammates in who are in better positions to assist. She finally got off the mark, and when Russo gets off the mark, you know, there's only one way this is going to happen for her the tournament. She seems to go on a run of games once she gets that goal. She got it against Wales. How do you see that matchup?
Yeah, I think another good matchup. I think Russo is a player for me that just has incredible mental strength, because, you know, I'm sure that from the outside there's all this sort of like, is she going to score? When's she going to score? But she doesn't ever stop doing what she should do. Yeah. You know, and that is her commitment to making those selfless runs, her commitment to trying to create space for others, her movement off the ball, her movement into the box. And she got her just rewards. Yeah. For that hard work.
Good finish, by the way.
Yeah, great finish.
She took her touch.
But for that hard work, for that, you know, desire to constantly try to be a threat, to try and make things happen, I think she's going to be the one that is going to try to tire out Bjorn. And whoever plays alongside her, you know, whether that's Magda Eriksson or Linda Sembrant potentially, I think she's going to want to just drag them into areas that they don't want to get into. And I think her double movements now in the box are really cute. I think she's really good at that now.
Well, we saw that yesterday in her goal. That will towards it and coming away.
Exactly.
Really, I think small subtle movements.
Small subtle movements
creates that little bit of space.
I think for forwards, you know, from my perspective as a former defender, is so hard to stop, because when you're in the box and you're defending and you're waiting, you're kind of sometimes on your heels, waiting to see like where's the ball going to go, and it's just that split second of taking your eye off of the play that you lose forwards like that. And if they're clever, as Russo is, with that movement, there's no way you can stop it. You know, so I think again, it's all going to be determined by the quality of the deliveries or the connections in and around the box that are going to feed into Russo and give her the opportunities, I think, to get off to a good start in that game.
This is, really, I mean, this is a really exciting, also a bit of a scary quarterfinal for England, I think, given the way that Sweden have, played those first 3 group games. But there were so many matchups. Angedahl against Kira Walsh is another matchup. Then you got Canarid up against Alex Greenwood. And she's been in the form, she's been in for Chelsea. That's an exciting matchup. So there's many more key battles across the park. Game plans are going to be really important.
Yeah.
Execution of those game plans. I think set pieces in this game could be key.
Yeah.
We know how good Sweden are in terms of their set pieces and do rely on that as well. But yeah, let us know what you think about the matchups. Are there any matchups that you guys are excited about? But let's move on a little bit. Some of the surprise players in the tournament, maybe surprise teams. And we'll talk about, our predictions in a little minute about our original, Euro winners and if anything's changed. But has there been any surprise, like standout players, or there's a couple that have took my eye for sure?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think, so out of the teams that have qualified to the quarterfinals, Switzerland.
Oh, they've got a few.
They've got a few.
They've had a few.
Young players. Scherten Leib is one of them. The other one,
Reutler. I really enjoyed in midfield.
Reutler and
Bene,
and there's one more, I think, Wangerheim. Don't know if I'm saying that right.
There's a few.
Can't remember, but there's a few. There's several young players on that team that I'm like, whoa, where do they come from? Genuinely, I was like, wow.
Yeah, where are they playing?
Where are they playing? Yeah. What club? Like, I want to follow kind of their journeys.
Yeah.
And I think, amazing in the first Euro, home tournament for them to have the displays that they've had. I think they've really galvanized the nation as well. In terms of other teams, I mean, there's not surprise players necessarily. I think they are good players, but I think Ariana Caruso for Italy is a quality player, really impactful, dynamic midfielder, scores goals, assists. She's been really good to watch as well. In terms of, I'm trying to think who else.
Vicky Lopez.
Vicky Lopez for Spain.
For Bomati, I think.
But you think, I mean,
her feet are just like.
I feel like
so slight.
All the Spanish players.
Yeah, all the Spanish
all of them.
players,
but yeah, Pina, Vicky Lopez.
Yeah.
And also young players, I think, really showing what they're capable of. For France, I mean.
Yeah.
They're not a surprise. Cascarino is not a surprise. Baltimore's not a surprise. I mean, they're top quality players. Kashawi, Basha, unreal players, and they've really stepped up. And I think they had to because there's been pressure on France.
Yeah.
With the players they've left out, and I think they're at the moment showing that they're capable. How about you?
Yeah, no, it's similar. I've liked Brand for Germany in terms
Hula Brand's been good.
And you know what? To think she's still only 22, 60 caps, 22 years of age. I mean, it's impressive. And I think she's had a real impact in that German team, certainly off that right-hand side. Their wide players have been impressive. I feel like Germany midfield, though, have been a little bit underwhelming in terms of that. I've been excited by Switzerland, young, kind of naive, inexperienced, expressive, but obviously now the real test is Spain. But yeah, they've got some good young players. That Bene, I'm really looking forward to. She's joined Manchester City, so yeah, she's certainly one that's excited me. I mentioned there Vicky Lopez. I just think this kid is unbelievable, and she gets minutes at Barcelona, but she doesn't get a lot of minutes. She'd probably like more, and with her qualities in any other team, she'd probably walk into. She obviously got the opportunity to start with the injury to Bomati, or the illness that Bomati had. And I think she's been really impressive. I mean, she got a goal in that opening game. She's been an exciting player. Pina, I said before coming into the tournament, was one that I was really excited to see. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. You know what? Norway.
Graham Hansen.
No. I actually think Norway on paper, which we spoke about many times, don't win anything. But the young kid that I can't think of her name. What's the
Galpset?
Galpset. That's it.
She's been good.
I mean, I had my eye on her 2 years ago when I first seen her in the Champions League. Is it for what was the team's only because Martio? Brand. It was Brand, wasn't it?
Sorry, Brand. Yeah.
Yeah. They she plays there, and I thought in the Champions League her performances were like, I'm like, wow, this kid like. And I was like, where is she? She disappeared for a season. I was like, I thought some teams in Europe would have come in for her, didn't. And then she played in that final group game for Norway, who had already qualified, got 2 goals. And I mean, if she doesn't start in that quarterfinal, sorry, it'll be a shock to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I actually think that performance played her way into the team. So
they need it.
I
they
definitely
need something
think
fresh.
that definitely needs to be looked at, because I actually thought she was super exciting. Was actually surprised she couldn't get into the team or didn't have an impact in terms of coming into the game, but certainly when she did from the start.
Unbelievable impact straight away.
she for me has played her way into the team, but it'll be interesting to see that lineup now in the quarterfinals, because I actually thought that was probably Norway's best performance out of the 3 games. And look, there was no pressure on them. They'd qualified, and when you play without pressure, performances can be a little bit different, and that looked that way for Norway. But she did impress me. And then when I think of England, I'm not surprised by, but I think Ella Toone, in terms of
Ella Toone as well.
Being left out of that opening game after a performance against Jamaica in a friendly going into the tournament, and then coming back in the way that she did. I mean,
she
it's
looks
hard
reinvigorated.
To leave her out. Yeah, she does.
And happy and free and
fresh,
enjoying
and
football fresh.
So she's been impressive for me.
No, definitely.
Outside of obviously Lauren James and Russo, with kind of the work that they've done.
I have to say one more player though, and obviously Finland are out the competition, but Kolosova.
Oh yes,
Kolosova, what a player, left side midfielder / forward, and I think she's one to watch for sure. I'm pretty sure she's put herself in the shop window as well.
Yeah, so let's talk Golden Boot, Nate, because before the tournament, I think we both went with Russo. She's got off the mark. She's on 1 goal, potentially 3 more games for her to play. But at the minute, Esther Gonzalez is sitting, top of the Golden Boot with 4 goals. Alexia Putellas, surprisingly, is right behind her with 3. And then we've got a lot of players on 2: Blackstenius, Brand, Cascarino, Galpset. Galpset's right up there after 1 game. Isn't that mad? It's like, James, there's Katota. There's many that have got 2 goals. Where do you see that Golden Boot going? Because we do know that Spain have Switzerland in this next game, which I believe to be a dominant. It's going to be another dominant performance, I would imagine. So
I think.
I mean, the other day I did say, I got asked, and I was like, look, before the tournament, I've been throwing out Russo. In tournament now, I actually think Alexia Putellas might get the Golden Boot. She's just something about her in this tournament. Her levels are just back to where they were.
Yeah, 100%.
Since that injury, she seems that hunger's in the belly. You can see it.
She seems on it.
So who you got? I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to go Alexia Putellas for the Golden Boot.
No, I agree. I definitely think it's going to be a player from Spain.
You can't just say that. We need a name.
But Putellas, I was going to say 100%, because she's also assisting.
Yeah,
like she's scoring and assisting all the time. Definitely up there. I was looking at players as well that you said on that list that I hadn't initially put into that context, but Cascarino, he's coming up with goals as well. Depending on how France obviously go on, could be also, potential player there. But Putellas for sure, I think what a joy to watch she is as a player.
Right, let's Nate, on that, like that pretty much rounds up, and then obviously we've gone a little bit into what the quarterfinals might look like, but let's do a little pre-tournament predictions, stick or twist. Here we go. This excites me because obviously going into it, we probably wasn't aware that Bonmati would get ill before the tournament or Russo wouldn't get off to a good start. So we predicted the winners. I predicted Spain. You predicted Germany.
Yeah.
Well, we both now know that one of those teams are not getting to the final. So I'm gonna stick with Spain. Are you gonna stick or twist?
I think I'm gonna twist.
Okay, and if you twist, who are you going with?
Going to go with Spain.
She quietly says under her breath. Right, player of the tournament. I said Bonmati. You said Russo. Stick or twist? I'm gonna twist.
Twist.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Putellas is.
Yeah, I think
has been. Bonmati ain't had enough games to kind of.
No, she hasn't.
Work her way back into getting that. Unless there's some special moments in the quarters and the semis from her. Alexia is the one I think that might get player of the tournament. Young player, I said Pina, you said Brand. Both playing well.
Both playing well.
I'm going to stick.
Ooh.
You picked a good one there.
Yeah, young player, I'm going to stick.
She's had a good tournament.
Yeah, I think
and goals.
I think she's played well, you know,
Yeah,
despite
she has.
the last performance of the team. But I think she's played well for the vast majority. So I'm going to stick with that young player.
With Golden Boot, I went with Russo. You went with Brand.
I know, yeah.
Where
was she on that list?
She's got two. She's only
got
two off the top.
She's two off the top, you know.
I'm going to have to twist.
It's still possible. But I think I have to twist as well, because when you look at the Spanish side of the draw and who they're going to play, I still think it's going to be Alexia Putellas.
Okay, so yeah, I think Putellas is why I twist on that one. How far will the Lionesses go? I predicted the quarterfinal stroke semi. You predicted the semi.
Yeah.
So are you sticking or twisting?
Well, if we beat Sweden, we could get Norway or Italy.
We'll go to the final. If we beat Sweden, we go to final.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So are you sticking or twisting at the semi-final?
I'm sticking.
So you think they will go out of the semi-final?
No, I think they'll go to a final. Okay, so twist. Sorry, I meant twist.
Yeah, this is difficult.
This game will determine everything. We win this quarter-final, I think we are going to the final.
I think the winner... Yeah, I agree. Whoever wins it, of course.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, of course. So you've twisted...
On paper, it's, favourable.
Yeah, and that's the point, isn't it? It was the quarter-final because we knew the quarter-finals, regardless who we had, Sweden or Germany, was going to be tough. Yeah. And that's why I was like, quarter-final, if we don't get that momentum in our play. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to stick.
Okay.
I'm going to stick. Fair. And you've twisted and you think we're going to go all the way. So, absolutely love that. But Neats, we have some fans' questions powered by Pepsi Max.
Indeed. So our fans' questions powered by Pepsi Max are... This one's from Claire_Bear_McComb. How will England deal with the pace of Sweden, badly exposed by France?
We spoke a little bit about it, didn't we? We know we're going to have to be a lot more tighter in kind of those transition moments. Our counter press you mentioned before in terms of those turnovers need to be better. We need more bodies around the ball when we do turn the ball over. I think it's a difficult one. We've kind of seen some, again, real inconsistent performances with England. The lows against France, the real highs against the Netherlands, and then a managed game, dominant performance against Wales, an opposition that didn't really test, where they are. Sure. It's a difficult one. You know what? We will have to be aware of the Swedish threats that they have within their team. And what frightens me a little bit or worries me a little bit is that Sweden had a real good test in their third group game against Germany. And we're coming into this game having not really been tested in our third group game. Now, could it work in our favour? Rested, managed the legs, was able to make plenty of changes. Sweden pretty much won that game with a full-strength team. But yeah, I think we have to be aware of those transitions because that's where we've looked vulnerable. But equally, when we go forward with quality, we're very dangerous.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. And I think ultimately that is the strength of Sweden, is exploiting space in channels and in beyond the defence. So like we've talked about before, we've got to be so good in those counter-pressing moments and recognise the triggers, like when we can actually go into pressure or when sometimes it's actually okay to bank up and protect space. It's the decision-making is going to be key. And ultimately exploit that when, the opposite way. When we retain the ball or recover the ball, how can we exploit the space that those players leave?
Yeah.
It's going to be a massive key. But I think what I've noticed is, like when France, for example, played the Netherlands or Sweden played France, like these teams aren't defending properly.
Yeah.
These transition moments because the balance in the midfield is not right.
Not there, is it?
So like, are we going to leave, Kira Walsh isolated in those moments, or are we going to offer some support with another midfielder potentially?
But that's what we did really well.
Tucking in like we've had at times.
We did that well though in the semi-final. Sorry, the semi-final back in 22. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but Kira Walsh was really isolated when we was trying to play out. And you're right, we needed somebody to come down and support her. Eventually, when we got Stanway to do that, that's when we was able to play out and didn't get exposed as much. So you're absolutely right. We can't leave that midfield area exposed.
Yeah, because I think you can control that better when you have two defensive midfielders. And even if you're left with a back three and they exploit spaces in the channels, because you protect the centre of the pitch, when you get to a position, then you can engage and send a player out. a midfielder can always fill
Yeah.
that centre-back space or vice versa.
Yeah.
Send the midfielder out, you keep your shape, allow the others to recover. I think when we don't have that is when we look the most vulnerable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more. But yeah.
And the last question is from Mrs.PKKM. Who do you think is the best player in the Euros so far?
I think we've said it. I think Alexia Putellas, starting those opening games without, a superstar teammate in Bonmati. I think she really did step up and deliver without Bonmati on the pitch. And, it would have been interesting if she had the same impact with Bonmati from the start. But she hasn't had her there, and she really has showed her levels. I mean, the goals and assists that she's had in the tournament so far, we mentioned it in the pod, if you listen to the full pod, that she's got that hunger and desire and that little bit of whatever it is in her belly to kind of go out there and be like, this is my tournament. She missed the Euros 22 through injury, so this is a big tournament for her. She was back in 23 for the World Cup, and we saw what happened there. So this is a massive tournament for her, and she's, showing a little bit what Spain missed in that Euros in 22.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%. I think she's by far the best player in the tournament so far. She is the player that isn't just playing football in this sort of like method way, she is playing with kind of elements of class, freedom, finesse, skill, technique that make the game enjoyable to watch. Yeah. It's like pleasing on the eye and it's instinctive. And you only see that with players that are enjoying the game, enjoying the level of competition. So 100% at the moment. But I do think there are a couple other players that are, not that far behind in terms of their performances.
And that obviously could change depending on how far teams could go. But is that that's all our questions, isn't it? We only take a couple. That concludes
the questions.
We need but send more in. Look, we've got the quarterfinals coming up, and we will be doing a reaction to that quarterfinal on Friday. I was trying to think when England play the quarters. We play on Thursday. So England play the quarterfinals on Thursday. So guys, between now and then, get your questions in and send some real good ones in for us, because we love answering the questions and we're trying to pick the best from what comes in. But thanks for listening to Boots, Balls and Bras, powered by Pepsi Max. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe so you never miss out on our Euro episodes. Until Friday, goodbye.